I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Hi everybody, it's Ron from The Truth About Addiction. Welcome. Today we have a beautiful guest. Her name is Jenna Brown. She's a yoga teacher and a very spiritual, loving person. And she's got a beautiful story. Her stories come from the other side of the world. We'll get more into that as we talk. And Jenna's got a lot to give, and she gives a lot. So thanks, Jenna. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Ron. It's good to be here. Yeah.
Good seeing you. So Jenna, you have got a funny Australian accent.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a mix. It's originally from Manchester, but I think I've picked up a little bit of a twang along the way so people can understand me. So yeah, it's probably really unique.
So your story, as we were having a chat just before, your story is a story of growth and a story of transition, and you've got your own demons that you've gone through with family members and things like that. Our podcast is about truth about addiction, but people seem to think addiction is all about the junkie on the street shooting up heroin, and it's not. It's got to do with the family members, the parents, the children, the brothers, the cousins. I have a sister who died from alcoholism. I had a brother who died from other drugs, and it affects us. And I am a recovering alcoholic, heroin addict, and I have a daughter who's 16 years clean, who's also a recovering addict, So, it is a family disease. And her sister, who's a twin, who's not an addict, is still affected by that same disease, even though she hasn't gone to that level. So, I don't know where addiction comes from, but I know how it ends up if we don't treat it, So, yeah. So, up to you, young lady.
Yeah, I mean, touching base on that, Ron, I mean, I have grown up around alcohol addiction, not in myself, but in my family, and drug addiction. But, I was speaking to one of my teachers last week about this, of saying, we all have addiction in us, whether that's alcohol, whether that's drugs. We just tend to gravitate to different things. I know for me, a lot of it's been work in the past of, addicted to work or whatever. It can be sex, like whatever. I feel like we're all addicted to something in this world, but some things can affect other people more, I suppose. So yeah, I'm originally from Manchester in the UK, and felt pretty lost around 24. My grandma raised me a lot because my mum drank and my dad drank every day. So I kind of wanted to escape that and be around my grandma who didn't drink at all. And unfortunately, she got cancer and died within a year, pretty sudden. So after that, that point, I just kind of woke up one day and wanted to get out of the rat race and just had this burning desire to leave. So I booked a one-way ticket to Australia. And that's when I came here around, it would have been around 8 years ago now, just put that one-way ticket on my own and kind of just landed in Byron Bay, which was definitely the mecca of Australia, and especially with yoga. And that's where I started my yoga career.
Yeah, cool. So that's a big move. 27 years of age, get on a plane and come to a country where you don't know anybody. It's a lot of faith.
Yeah, that would have been, and back then, Ron, I wasn't on any spiritual journey. I didn't, if anybody would have talked to me about spirituality or anything like woo-woo, I would have been like, you're crazy. I was just in that mindset of, and it's kind of who you turn into, who you surround yourself with. And I didn't know anything different back then. And coming from a place in Oldham, which is a really underdeprived place outside of Manchester, no one was talking about things like that. You kind of had to put on this front, like you had it all together and you couldn't show any fear. And my dad's kind of one of those people. Like, he was in prison when I was born, and I kind of looked up to him like that. I don't know, if I'm honest, and all his friends and hearing all the stories. That's kind of how I was brought up. But then when I moved to Australia and really started to learn more about myself, that's when I started to become a little bit more soft and knowing that I can let down the barriers. And yeah, that's where the yoga started to kick in.
So you got to Byron Bay, you started doing yoga as there someone to do yoga?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. So I was working as a dental nurse then. That was my career. And my ex-partner was a dentist, and he bought me my first ever yoga class. So when I look back, I'm like, everything was kind of lined up with the stars, like destiny was already happening as soon as I took the leap. So I went to my first ever yoga class here in Byron. And for the first time, I felt, if I'm honest, the first class was because I felt like I could do the shapes quite easily. So I was drawn to the practice physically. But then after going, after weeks and then after months, I started thinking, what is this? There's something more than just the physical here. And I want to know what that is because no one's explaining it. I think when you turn up to a yoga class, you know that something's going on a deeper level, but you don't really know what the goal is and what you're trying to achieve. So it can be really confusing. And then I was like, okay, I really want to do a teacher training to figure out what is this? Why am I feeling so good? And then that's when I moved to Bali for a year and I started to become I trained as a holistic health coach. So we look at not just what you eat, but relationships, career, all the pieces of the puzzle that give that holistic health approach. And I did my first teacher training. So I was there in Ubud for 1 year. That would have been around 6.5 years ago now. Living in the community there in Kediwatan and really embracing the culture, which was incredible.
Yeah, I love Ubud. That's my favourite place. In Bali, in Indonesia, that's my favourite place. I'm going there on Friday. So next Monday. Yeah, next Monday I'm going to Bali for a week on my own.
Ubud.
Just on my own. I'll get to Ubud, yeah. I'll go up to Ubud for a couple of days. I love Ubud, But yeah, so the joys, the gifts of having a choice.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a travel at the minute as well.
Yeah.
After COVID and being locked up. Yeah,
that's my first trip for years now. But yeah, sounds really funny. I teach alcohol and drug addiction. I'm going over for the opening of a bar.
I love that. Yeah, it's about balance, right?
My friends are opening a bar and they said, will you come? And I said, of course I'll come, I treat one of their children. So they said, please come over. We'd really love you to. And I said, yeah, it's a funny world, how our life changes from who we were to what we become and what we have to do in between. And what we have to do in between is the fun part, the part that you're talking about now, the journey. The journey is what it's all about. It's not the destination. It's the journey and the people you meet, how we met, it's like we're on a journey. We're all on the same journey. And it's what you said before, there's no coincidences. Everything's for a reason. Everything's for a reason, I believe.
Yeah.
When
about following that uniqueness as well, Ron, like you're saying, I'm going to Bali, but it's about opening a bar. And for me, when the mind can't rationalize that logic part of like opening a bar, but to me, that's where all these opportunities open up because you're just following intuition and you're following guidance and that can lead you in all these different avenues that you're like, wow, I never even thought that this was possible,
The networking that we have these days is incredible through this. We're talking to each other. You're in Byron, I'm sitting on the Sunshine Coast. We can talk to each other from all around the world. And this is why we're doing this, so we can reach more people and let people know, hey, wait a minute, there is something else. There's, because I think I told you I fell in love with yoga 20-something years ago. And I was there for the physical part of it. I went there because I was training. I was doing a lot of, weightlifting and all that stuff and boxing and stuff like that. And I was actually getting very muscle bound and tight. And this lady friend of ours, she was a yoga teacher. She's an older woman who has done yoga all her life. She's very good at Ashtanga. She said, you need to come and do some yoga. You need to do some breathing. And I thought, I breathe every day. What are you talking about? I know how to breathe.
Yeah.
I'm alive. And I went and did Ashtanga and was like, what happened here? You know, the heat from Ashtanga yoga, you know, and you know, like the physical part was okay, but the spiritual part that I found and the peace that I found was unbelievable. You know, like people say, what do you get from yoga? I said, it's not really what I get, it's what I lose. I lose the anger. I lose the self-centeredness. And I become very humble doing yoga because I can do the handstands, but I can't do some of the bends. You know what I mean? So it's a real give and take, the yin and yang of this exercise that I was so much into. But all of a sudden, I wasn't the strongest guy in the room because it didn't matter about being how strong you were. And it had to be how committed you were and how dedicated you were and how much you could, you know, get into the right postures and what to do. And it's like, wow, okay, this, like you, I started reading all these books and it's like, wow, this is so cool. And for me, it really opened up another world, a world of peace, a world of love, a world where the ego was actually pushed aside. That's what I got from yoga. Was the yoga for me was more about the breath and the internal peace. The physical part, I can do it. You know, I could do a lot of things, but I could never get inside. I wouldn't let anybody in. And I found that, you know, 20 years ago, my journey got broken down because of yoga. And people think yoga's sitting cross-legged and, we're sitting here now, you know, our breath, everything is for me, is part of my yoga. You know, you'll see me all the time. I'll stop, I'll position myself and I'll start breathing because I'm starting to feel I need to get back grounded to where I am, you know. And that's what I got with you. You know, when I first met you, it was like, you were very grounded. We were in it was quite a funny situation how we met, you know, and your position in that situation was quite funny too because it was all men. There's you sitting there and you're like, this is what I do. This is what I'm about. It was really impressive. It was like, yeah, okay. This young lady, she's switched on. She knows what she wants and she's going for it because it was an intimidating situation for you to be in.
Yeah, it's funny how you picked up on that. I'm glad you did.
That's my job.
You know, thinking about it before, I'm like, all right, a room full of like 6 men, all older, and half of them have been in prison. But for me, that's the funny thing. I've never felt any different to someone what's been inside for all the life, or any, like, I've, if anything, I felt a closer connection.
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's a sense of trust. And you know, I did think about that the day before, like, oh, maybe it is going to be a little bit intimidating, if I'm honest. But then, yeah, you can lean on the tools of yoga, and they work.
Yeah.
You can calm your breath down. You can have visualizations. You know, I've got a couple of deities. You can see Ganesha in the background, but it's just remembering the qualities of what they possess.
Yeah.
You know, and that we all have that inside of us, but just bringing that out. And yeah, that's interesting how you picked up on that.
And the qualities you possess. Now, your inner strength, your trust, your knowing, I can do my job.
Yeah.
See, I believe when you know you can do your job, you don't have to impress anybody. You're not looking for outside recognition. It's like, I'm doing my job to the best of my ability. If that's not good enough, suck shit.
Exactly.
Suck shit.
Yeah.
Get somebody else to do the job. I say to people, if this is not working for you, get somebody else. Simple.
Yeah. Letting go of that need to people please.
Yeah, the ego. The ego is the biggest enemy. And as I said, for me, the yoga was smash the ego to pieces. You know, it really did. Yeah. It just made me want to be me. Just because yoga is internal. Everyone thinks it's the bending, it's the moving, it's the. For me, and you're the yoga teacher. I'm not the yoga teacher. To me, I just found such an inner working, and I found that all my recovery today is sort of about your brain and your heart, and trying to get the two on the same level. You know, because my brain just scattered aces. My brain tells me the worst lies. My heart never lies to me. Never lies to me. My heart. If I listen to my heart, I'm in a really good place. And my breath and being around people like yourself brings that out in me. It's like, okay, I have nothing to fear. I've got no insecurities. I don't have any motives. So I can actually be me. And it's such a really, really nice place to be when you meet somebody that's like, okay, this is cool. We can do this, you know?
How beautiful. Yeah, because then you allow the other person to let the guard down.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, you know, it I feel like I can really resonate people with a little bit more of a background or a challenging situation, and I feel like those that have this armor and hold fear or might be aggressive to you in some way or whatever are the ones that actually need a little bit more love.
Yeah.
So it's our job to be a little bit more compassionate to those people that are dealing with that stuff, which can be hard because sometimes, you know, if you feel like you don't deserve it or whatever, but I don't know. I feel like that's my mission here, like we were talking about before, is to be in service and to be present and just to help. For me, that's where I find the most joy is through that. And it's really interesting because I have initiation, which means I had a guru. I don't give all my power to that. I'm not too much one way. Like, I'm just me and I'm unique, but I got that connection so I could have a few more downloads and make it traditional. I don't know. There's a part of me that remembers this from past lives. And my spiritual name given was Jivana, meaning without a spiritual practice, I have no life. And that's exactly how I feel. If you take away that practice for a day, if I don't do it for a day, I feel it. There is days where I slip off the bandwagon and I don't do it. And then I'm like, oh, that's why I'm having a shitty day. That's why I'm going back into these thoughts. So it's, you know, it's the discipline, like with anything, whether it's an AA meeting, an NA meeting, or getting in the ocean or whatever, but following more of that stuff that, you know, is going to keep you centered and, you know, is going to be you present. And there's also a saying in yoga, not always what you want is what you need. And for me, that was huge because in the beginning, I would always lean to the practices that I was good at because that's validating my ego. So even in yoga, you can do that. You can, you know, and I've been to practices in Byron where it's like, oh, really? For fuck's sake, again? Like, you just turn up to a yoga class and someone's doing a handstand for 2 minutes before you walk in. I'm just like, and it's so funny because it can lead you in the opposite direction. And I was like, I never want to be that teacher. I want people to feel welcomed, all sizes, all ages. If that means throwing in a swear word to make it relatable, then so be it. But yeah, it's a funny game. So I feel like it's really important to find a teacher that you just connect with, that you can resonate with. Is a big thing.
Yeah, 100%. And you're very approachable and you're very honest. And, you know, I find honesty is such an attractive thing with everybody, you know. Even when you see a little child, a 5-year-old child goes, like to me, you know, I got a full bodysuit. I remember walking down the beach one day and this little boy staring at me and his mum's like, you know, don't stare at him. And he goes, Uma, you're in trouble. You drew all over yourself. And I loved it. And his mum was like, don't be cheeky. I said, no, that's really nice. I said, that was really beautiful what he just said, you know, like, oh, you're in trouble. You've drawn all over yourself. And I love that. That's the honesty that we all lose because of fear of rejection, fear of reprisal, and fear is the enemy. And the opposite to fear is faith. And I believe for me, what you do is you give people faith. You help people find their faith. We don't give anything. We help people find. We're just guides. We're just guides. All we do is guide people. And I believe we're being guided to guide people. I have a spiritual advisor I've had for 36 years. And if I'm unsure, I ring him up and say, mate, this is what's going on. And the funny part is sometimes I think I'm right and I call him and I've had him for 36 years. And he'll say, are you serious? You are so far out of whack. Your brain's scattered aces, man. What you're thinking is crazy. And I'm like, what? Yeah. And then we laugh and, you know, we've been a long time together. And then he goes through what I'm going through and I see the reality and I think, fuck, I was crazy. What was I thinking? Because, you know, I'm a human being first. I'm a male second and I'm an addict third. We all get tied up in our thinking. We're just humans. We're doing our best. We make a mistake. But at least if we make a mistake, be humble enough to go, okay, I made a mistake. I can rectify that mistake. If I don't own it, I can't
and
fix
I think that's the big thing, isn't it, Ron? Like, you know, holding on to that, I have all the answers. I've got it right. Like, for number one, you're suffering yourself by doing that, subconsciously thinking that you're doing the right thing. And number two, who wants to be around someone that's always got it right? Like, it's the most boring thing. And like you said, it's so beautiful when someone says, I haven't got the answer. That's all you have to say. And if anything, it just brings closer connection. Oh, you're human. Yeah, I like that, you know, rather than this.
Yeah, people that are wrapped up themselves make small parcels. My friend's got that. My friend owns a tattoo studio in Los Angeles, right in the middle of Sunset Strip, and he tattoos Charlie Sheen and, you know, Roxanne, and he's tattooed all the Motley Crue. He tattooed Ozzy Osbourne. You know, he tattoos all the rich and famous. You know, all the movie stars. Everyone goes to him, and he's got that across the top of his door. People who are wrapped up themselves make small parcels, and none of them even notice it. They go like, "Oh, that's cool," you know what I mean? Because they're so wrapped up in themselves. They don't see the depth of it. There's a really famous hockey player called Wayne Gretzky. His wife was getting tattooed there, and she said, "What's that mean?" And I said, "Oh, it doesn't matter. It's not relevant for you." It's, you know.
But she was closer because at least she asked the question.
Yeah, what does that mean? She just didn't get it, and you know, she was getting his number tattooed on her butt. I was going, "Yeah, okay," you know. She's with her girlfriend. Like, my husband's the most famous hockey player in the world, and he was. But yeah, it's just beautiful. I love that stuff, you know. And I realised that I don't want to be a small parcel, you know. And it's really nice when you see little signs like that. You go like, "Is that what I really want in life? Is that what my destination is? Is that what my desires?" You know, because our desires are the stuff that makes us happy. When we have a desire, you've got to have a passion. You've got to have something you believe in. You've got to have for me, I believe we've got to have a higher power. We've got to have something outside of ourselves. Otherwise, we're wrapped up in ourselves. You know? But
yeah, I mean, in the yoga world, we call it dharma. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that's your purpose.
Your dharma, yeah.
And a lot of hatha practitioners, you know, old school hatha practitioners, that's where I like to take my practice from, further back as I can, actually gives you that motivation to strive to reach your dharma. You know, when I first got here from Manchester and I arrived, I can look back at my Instagram right at the start and see a completely different person. Like, and I love it. I would never delete that because I'm like, fuck, I can see the transformation. And you asked me to even do this podcast back then, I would have been like, yeah, I come across so confident because I had these layers on. I would have never been able to do this because I wasn't showing the true essence. And for me, that's what yoga's done. It's unraveled. You know, I always have this visualization of like a Russian doll. Like, it unravels all the layers that and just gets rid of all the shit of the ego, I suppose you can describe it, to get to the soul, to share from that place that's doesn't need validation.
I like your Russian doll thing because I say the onion, you're peeling off the layers of the onion. The Russian doll is a lot more attractive than the onion. I say
I've heard of the onion before.
I say to people, we just got to peel off the onion. We're going to layer by layer as we go through this system. We're going to peel away the layers, and we'll get into the honesty, into the truth. You know, I love carrying a message of recovery. And people think it's about drugs. It's not about drugs. It's about life, about the traumas that we've been through. You know, you gravitate towards people like myself and other people that have had the hard life. Because if you look at the story, Dad, you know, go back to the very beginning. You know, we're attracted. My love was my mum. My mum was soft and she was tiny and she was very strong. And my wife's soft, very strong, tiny. You know, like, that's my first love. You know, it was my first love was my mum. My wife's my first, you know, is my real first love, even though I met her when I was 57 years of age. And that sounds horrible. You know, I loved other women, but this is different. This is different. Yeah. This is completely different. This is like nothing I've ever experienced before because I'm different.
Yeah.
I'm now lovable.
Yeah.
I wasn't lovable before, you know. Yeah. You could say you loved me. I didn't believe you. Yeah. Because you didn't know me.
Yeah.
You know, that was my brain. My brain said, you're a dickhead. If you said you loved me, you were opening up a whole can of worms to say, you can do anything you like to me. You know, if you said you loved me, it was like, oh, okay. Beauty. Now we can play. You know, now we can get down to the nitty gritty and play. You know, where today it's like, it's different. It's just so nice what you said, that doll, and I relate to that so much that, for me, my yoga, my work through the 12-step programs, my work through the Buddhism, my work through, it's not just one thing. People think, oh, it's just the 12-step program. Oh, it's just this or it's just that. No, it's everything. And you have to take what fits and let the rest fall away. And slowly, I have this, I have 8 demands that I work on. It's openness, acceptance, reliability, congruence, thoroughness, consistency, respect, and honesty. And if you can work on those 8 demands, one of those demands each day, and master each one of those demands, you have a very successful, wonderful life. Because they're the 8 characteristics I think make a human being a good person. And to openness.
I love that, Ron. Yeah, and I can relate. I don't think in the first couple of years of doing my practice, I'm like, oh, it should all be yoga, and I'd feel guilty reading something else. But I'm like, no, it's not like that anymore. I have so many different modalities, not just yoga, that I can lean on for how I'm feeling, and it's okay to go down those different. Like I do a course in miracles once a week now. I do a course in miracles. And it's ultimately yoga is feeling union, and if different paths at different times take you into that union, you're still experiencing yoga. You're still experiencing presence. So it doesn't matter which route it gets you down, as long as you can feel into now. So I do a lot of that in my teaching as well. I close down my eyes and I channel. And some people are like, what? How do you? And I did a podcast a few months ago with a woman in Melbourne, because she would always hire me for her retreats. And she's like, the biggest thing I took away from you is just like, you closed and you channeled. And that's the only thing I've been able to do in my classes. And people might say, oh, alignment or whatever. And I'm like, listen, for me, there's way more stuff than alignment. I'm not an alignment teacher per se, but I'll use yoga and alignment to draw you in. But I want you to leave feeling so much better than is your knee over your ankle. For me, it's more than that. And that's the place from, where I teach from, is guidance.
The thing you and I touched on something the other day. You talked about the mental part of the yoga, your thoughts, what your brain tells you and stuff like that. That's the stuff that I love the most. Let's being honest, because that's what I work with. Mm-hmm. I work with trying to rewire people's brains, trying to rewire their thinking, and trying to tell them that their thinking is not real. Sometimes what you think is not real, and what you feel is caused by what you think. So if your thinking's not right, your feeling's not right. So to change the way you feel, you have to change the way you think. And that's really hard. So we have to reprogram. And this day and age, we have computers and people are starting to understand programming, where before, 40 years ago when I first started getting clean, if you said reprogram to me, we called it brainwashing. You're trying to fucking brainwash me, man. Don't try that shit with me, And I have a friend who's quite, he's dead now. He's funny, some of the greatest teachers could never learn. Some of the greatest teachers I know could never learn. They could teach everybody else, but they couldn't practice.
They were just set
they couldn't
in the
practice.
ways you mean,
They couldn't practice their own belief system. They couldn't practice their own information. And I had one friend, his name was Brad. Yeah. And he was working in a drug rehab in Sydney. And one of my other friends, who I didn't know at the time, was in the detox. And he says to Brad, you're trying to fucking brainwash me, man. This guy's a real smart mouth guy. And my mate Brad's a real smart mouth guy. And he goes, Wayne, if I want to wash your brain, he said, I'd spit on a tissue. That's how fucking big your brain is. This is a conversation between 2 grown men. One's a drug and alcohol counsellor. One's a client in the rehab. And one's saying, you're trying to brainwash me. And Brad's going, mate, your brain's that small. I just spit on a tissue to wash your brain. And the funny part is, Brad, who was the teacher, died in active addiction. Wayne, who was the student, is 38 years drug-free. So, there's the irony of what we think,
I love that.
If you had a video of that, you go like, oh, this guy's wonderful. He's got all the answers. This guy's a bum. He's going to have nothing. It was exactly the opposite. It was exactly.
I love that one. And it reminds me of a situation when I was living in Bali, because when we first moved to Bali with my ex, he had a meditation teacher, and that's when we was living in Ubud, and she would come every morning. She would knock on the door, and he would open the door, and he would do meditation. And I did it a few times. He'd ask me to join in. And anyway, I wasn't really feeling it, and I didn't know too much about it back then, yoga or meditation, to be honest. I'd only done classes in Byron. I hadn't done my teacher training yet. And one of the cleaners came, I think, 5 minutes early, and they knocked on the door, and she opened the door, and she just ripped into him. And I just said, if that's your meditation teacher, I'm not doing meditation again with her, because I don't care if you've been doing it 20 years. If you speak to somebody else that's actually trying to show initiative by showing up 5 minutes early, then I don't give a shit. I don't want to know anything. And for me, like, you've got to find out, you know, with a teacher, like, what is, it doesn't matter really how many years they've been doing it. I don't think, like, as long as they've got that heart space and that desire to learn and compassion, and with their ego out of the way, that's the biggest thing for me
100%,
to look for.
100%. Don't listen to what I say. Watch what I do. I say it to people. I say it to people all the time.
Action.
Don't listen to what I say. Watch what I do. I said, because I can talk you around circles.
Yeah.
I said, but I need to walk you around circles.
Yeah.
I said, you've got to watch what I do.
Yeah.
And it's so nice. I do. I observe people, you know. I've lived a long time in a really bad world where a lot of people don't live to my age, you know, and a lot of people don't live to 20. You know, I was told I would live to 21. The police told my father, you know, when I was 17, he will not live to 21. I'd been involved in a shootout with the police, blah, blah, blah. I've been charged with other attempted murders of gangsters. You know, I never hurt innocent people. Mine was all bullshit gangster crap. And, you know, the cops were shooting at us. You know, it wasn't like we just went and shot at some cops who went, you know, they were shooting at us. We were shooting back at them. So, you know, it was normal. What I called normal where I grew up anyway, you know. So, you know, we had all this stuff going on. And today I know what normal is. Normal is to wake up with peace. Normal is to go to sleep. If my wife and I had any sort of disagreement, I will not go to sleep until we've settled it. I don't go to sleep with a cranky brain. Every night I go to sleep, I say to whoever the higher power is, and I don't know who my higher power is, I say, thank you for helping me through the day, and please help me through this day, the next 24 hours. And that's because I need to remain humble, to know that I'm not doing this on my own, that I have some special, loving, caring higher power that's guiding me and directing my life. And I think, you know, that's been a gift of mine. And mine's a daily practice, same as yoga used to be a daily practice. I couldn't have a day off. My teacher would say, you've got to have a day off. I say, I don't want to. She'd say, why? I'd say, because I feel good when I do it. She'd say, well, do something different. Do a different practice on that day. Don't do the same, because, you know, we had the same system, the Stanga, the same routine, the same, everything was the same, you know. I was like, And then I started doing the mental stuff. I started trying to reprogram my thinking. And as I said, I went back to prison. Well, I'm getting old. It was 25 years ago. I was 26 years ago. I started doing yoga. I went back to prison after being there. I was about 5 years into yoga, and I started teaching yoga in prison. Because I started working we made a drug rehab in prison, so we started doing yoga as part of the practice, and I started bringing my yoga teacher in from outside, and she used to come in and we'd do a class once a month. The guys were a wrap, you know. One, because it was a beautiful woman coming into the system, and then two, because she was teaching them softness, and they were allowed to be vulnerable instead of walking around this tough guy, you know, in the yards, because prison's not a very conducive place for softness. And for that 1 hour a month, they could actually be themselves. They could get in contact with their, what I call your femininity, your softness, your loving, your heart, you know, your compassion, your empathy. But as soon as she'd leave, all the egos would come back, like, yeah, that was all right, mate, yeah, you know. But while she was there, they were like, oh, can you help me get to that position? Oh, how do you do that? You know, like, it was just so cute to see, you know, these tough guys with the tattoos all over their faces. You know, a lot of them, you know, guys doing life sentences and murderers and blah, blah, blah. And, for that 1 hour, they were just like little babies. You know, can you help me? Can you do this? How do you do that? You know, it's really exciting times, you know, and I know you've got exciting stuff coming up in the future, you know, and I really know you're going to do well. I know you're going to do really well. I know that you're going to bring a lot of peace maybe and joy, you know. The physical part of the yoga to me was not what I got out of yoga. that was nice, and I really enjoyed it because I was a lot stronger. But the heart and the softness and the connection with people that were like-minded, the connection with people that were giving, not people that were just trying to take everything. You know what I mean? Because I don't know about you, but I really don't like people that just want to take all the time. One-way streets, I call them. And one-way streets go nowhere.
Yeah. At the temple where I go to, it's like they're literally all having a fight because they all want to give. It's like, no, I'm cooking the dinner. No, I'm doing this. And it's like the opposite. I'm washing the dishes. I'm doing this. It makes me laugh. But it's funny you say that because when I first started teaching in Byron 6 years ago, I started at a big gym here, and I asked for more of a stretch and restore class, so more of a relaxation class that'll help me sleep. And the owner was like, Jenna, it'll never go down here. Like, everyone's like in the gym, like pumping iron, like, they want strong, they want this. And I'm like, just give me a month, please. Just give me a month. If it doesn't work out, we'll scrap it. It's fine. And then first couple of weeks, it was dead. No one showed. And I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. Like, it's not working. And then, then people started turning up. And within 6 months, that was the busiest class out of the whole of the timetable. I didn't even have enough mats. Like, I think what people were experiencing, because I would really drop certain things. So they would think that they were turning up more for the physical, but I would do certain things to help them feel more released and help them feel more in the body, that I think they was experiencing that what you just talked about, but without me saying it. So that's the trick as a yoga teacher, and what I believe in, my dharma is to use the asana, to use the physical, to reel them in, because it's very popular in the West, but then start the journey by making them feel more than just the physical and being present, and what it feels like to drop down from your head and into your heart and let go of all that shit. Because like you said, like, we only really suffer is when we're in the past or the future. Yeah. Everything's fine here. But when I think about, oh, fuck, I've got to do that, or someone cut me off yesterday, or this or that, that's when we start to suffer with the ego. But if we can drop down here to now, and that's why my practice is always changed. I don't like to say I teach a certain way. I like to say I teach to who presents, because that can include a range of different modalities and a range of different lineages in yoga, because I have to try and make it relatable to them and not follow one thing and lean on those tools.
Perfect. For anybody who's listening to this, you've got your own website too, haven't you, Jenna? How do people follow you, Dawn? How do they get in contact with you and follow you?
I can send you, so it's jennabrownyoga.com is my main website. And then if you click online, it'll take you to all of my online platforms. So I think I've got like over 15 meditations and over 30 yoga classes and different courses on there now, ranging from 5 minutes to an hour. And they're all on demand, so you can just watch whatever you're feeling.
I suggest people check it out and look at it and explore it. If it's not for you, let it go. If it's for you, chase it up. Like, I believe, as a child, you taste anything. You don't ask what it is. It's like, what's that? And you'll taste anything. And as adults, we start to get fussy. And I think we rip ourselves off because we stop learning, we stop growing. You never. I don't believe I'll ever stop learning. I have a story. I don't tell this story very often. In 1981, I was in a drug rehabilitation center. I'd just come straight from prison to rehab. I didn't go there to get clean. I went there because there was girls there, and there wasn't girls in the prison. That was the truth. And I got bailed to this drug rehab, and this guy's family. I didn't have family visit me in prison or rehabs. It was pretty bad. And there was this old lady. She was about 90. And they'd wheeled her into the visit area. On this rehab, and I'd come down and have a free feed with this guy's parents and grandmother. And in retrospect, I was a cheeky little prick. And I said to her, oh, what do you do for fun, darling? She's 90 years of age. I'm 27, cheeky. What do you do for fun? I'm in rehab wearing someone else's clothes, and I think I've got it all going on. And she says, oh, sweetie, as long as I learn something every day, I've had a successful day. And I remember walking away thinking, what the fuck was that? fast forward 42 years. As long as I learned something today, I've had a successful day. Yeah, it's so beautiful, you know. I missed it. I missed it completely. Today I don't miss anything. You know, today I'm very open to learning, experiencing, sharing. And I do believe it had a lot to do with yoga. You know, I've been clean a long time, and I was clean before I got into yoga. But yoga changed something in me. Even though I had this other program, I had all these beliefs, and I'd been to Pune, I'd gone over and done tantric meditations, and I was searching, and I found yoga, and I was doing Buddhism at the same time, and I just found a place of love and compassion. And I think for me, they helped each other. You know, and I like yoga because it's a practice. I like Buddhism because it's a practice, and I like 12-step programs because it's a practice, and I like my life because I practice. It's a daily thing. I only do everything on a daily basis. You know, what I do today mightn't be the same as what I do tomorrow, but it's going to be very similar. And I did it for the last X amount of years, and it's brought me joy and peace. So why would I stop doing it?
Exactly. And just that feeling of love, Ron, that you're saying, like that energy of love resonates so much. If you're feeling that with other people, they feel it. And just holding that when you're in that space and having not even a conversation or just being around with someone, I found is the biggest transformation that you can give somebody else. Maybe not even saying a word. You know, sometimes a yoga class might be not saying a word, but like, talk, I've got you, I'm here, and holding that space with no judgment. And for me, it all comes back down to love.
John Lennon said it. No one listened. All you need is love. You know, and you know they've been telling.
Yeah, it's true, and it sounds like a little bit. I don't like to come across like woo-woo and a little bit out there, but I've seen what it does. Yeah. Like my mum was an alcoholic. You know, growing up, she drank every day. She would drink to numb every single day. And when I came out here, I got a message saying she's not going to live much longer. You need to get back straight away. She was drinking like 7 bottles of wine a day or something like that. And she was 49. So me and my ex at the time, Lee, we went back to the UK from Bali. And after I'd just done my holistic health coaching, I was like, you know what? What's one thing that I can do for her that she's never had? Love. And I came here with resentment a little bit to her for not being there. But then after doing my health coaching, and I was able to heal that and be like, nobody wants to experience this life that she's going through. So I should be more compassionate. She's never had that. You know, my dad would start arguments every night. He would drink and she would just have it from every angle. Look at you, you're a waste of time, like drinking again. So I made an intention to go home and give her nothing but love every single day. And I swear to God, Ron, it was coming up to New Year's Eve, and I said, I'm going to book us a ticket to go to Thailand, and we're going to backpack around Thailand. And she was like, I get anxiety getting on the bus. How are you going to get me to Thailand? I'm like, well, you've got nothing to lose. You've literally got a month left to live if you carry on. So what have you got to lose? We got her to Thailand, New Year's Eve. We brought in the holiday 2 weeks around Thailand, backpacking round. She never touched one drop of alcohol. This is a woman that's been in AA the whole of her life, but never went, always made excuses and always felt like a failure. And because for the first time I was able to turn it around, she opened up to me about trauma as a child. Yeah. She'd never talked to anyone, just through holding that space of like, there is no judgment here, there is just love. She felt it without me needing to explain, I do yoga or do something else, but just that loving energy and getting my shit out of the way to be there for her. And I always remember becoming the mother to her in that brief period. And then she went back, you know, and obviously habits kicked back in. I came back to Australia and she started drinking again. And unfortunately, I lost her 2 years ago on the day that I got permanent resident here. So, you know, I had to do the full funeral because we didn't have anybody there. So I had to pick her casket. I had to do the funeral song. I had to do the speech because there was nobody else to do a speech at a funeral. And I tell you what, that was, looking back, I was also going through a separation with my ex and ending the house here, going through legal papers. I felt like I had no one. But I tell you what, I would have been a mess if I didn't have my yoga practice and what I learned. But I handled it like looking back, I'm like, I don't know how I did it, but it's because of what I learned from these tools. Like so it
I love
works.
it. What you said was the word, these tools. And that's what they are. They're tools. They're the tools that we use to cope and to live life on life's terms and be successful.
Yeah.
You know, today you're a very successful human being.
Yeah.
You're a successful lady, you know. You're successful in everything you do, you know. And so, you know, I take my hat off to you. You've done so well and you've come so far, and people take it for granted. We take it for granted. We are the ones that take it for granted. It's like, oh, okay. But I try to remind myself on a daily basis how far I've come, and to give myself a little bit of encouragement, saying, mate, you're going okay. You know, you've got a good heart. You're doing good things. And it's really important that you do that to yourself, because we who help other people tend to help ourselves sometimes. And we have to bring it back to, okay, it is a selfish program. All our programs are selfish because we don't do them to feel bad. We're human beings. We don't want to feel bad. So if we weren't gaining some enlightenment or achievement or self-satisfaction from it, we wouldn't be doing it. So,
And a friend of, a mutual friend of ours, Russ, he was saying to me the other day, you know, you can be capable of anything, you can draw in anything, what do you want to do next or whatever? I'm like, I've got it all. I swear I couldn't change my life right now. There is nothing more that I want than what I'm doing now. And I live every day like that now. I'm so grateful. And I really believe it. Like, I'm super grateful for every day. And I think it's that what gives you more. The more you're grateful, the more you get. Like, and sometimes, you know, it's like, wow, like I can't believe these or situations, you know. But just be open to receiving and grateful.
I
the doors
fully
open more, I
agree. You
believe.
do good things come back. In giving, we receive, you know. But, look, I think we've been blessed. We are the lucky ones. We've been blessed. And it has been through trials and tribulations. So what? We've got through them. They're the past. That's what makes us who we are today.
Yeah.
You know, what we went through in the past is who we are today. We learned from them. Because Albert Einstein said, excuse me, the definition of insanity is making the same mistake and expecting different results. And that is insanity. And I try not to be insane today. I make sane decisions. I don't go and put myself in situations where I can get myself into trouble. I don't put myself in situations where I'll have regret. You know? But I'm a human being. I will make mistakes. But when I do, I'll forgive myself and I'll deal with it and I'll own it and I'll get on with it.
And I think that's the big thing, right, is the quicker you can get over that and let it go rather than keep dwelling on it. You know, because then you're adding more energy to it. That's one thing that I'm learning as well as I'm getting older. Oh, yeah, I fucked up there. But I'll apologize. I'll own my part for it. And then I'm going to drop it. You know, otherwise you just keep getting stuck in the same pattern and it's not helping anyone. You just keep replaying the same thing.
It was a mistake. If you learn from it, it was an experience. It is so simple. It is that simple. It really is, you know. You know? Jenna, you have been such a lovely guest. Thank you very much for coming and sharing your experience, strength and hope with us. I really, really have enjoyed the time we've had together, and I look forward to spending some more time talking and sharing and experiencing stuff together, you know. But yeah, you've been wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jenna.
Me too. Thanks, Ron.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.